Hello, in this video we'll be going over segues and navigational control in the Swift programming language. We'll also create a login app that passes in data from one screen to another. Let's get started. Let's first open Xcode. Now let's create a new Xcode project. Now make sure it's iOS and make sure it's an app. Click next. Now let's name this login app, and you could choose a organization identifier and make sure it's a storyboard and it's in Swift. Click next. Now that you've created your app, now let's go over to the main tab. So let's add another view controller. Click the plus icon and then type view controller. Now we have created our second view controller. I'll drag it. Now let's add two text fields. So to add a text field, we could go here, text field. Now let's drag it over to our, so this first one will be a login page. Let's drag it over here. And then let's go over and get another view controller. And now we'll add it right underneath. So the first one will be like the username, and the second one will be like the password. Now we'll add 3 buttons. So go over here, type button, and then we'll drag our buttons here. And we'll also add another button, and we'll put that over here a bit to the side. And we'll also add another button. And the reason for these additional 2 buttons at the bottom are like forgot password and forgot username. Let's actually move this a bit into the center. Now let's change the text of this button. So change the text of the button. We can go here, or we can so we can say login. So we can do login, and then for this button we can say forgot username. For this button we can change it up and say forgot password. Now I'm adding placeholder text. I'm saying username, and then over here I'm saying password. And so now it's starting to look like a login screen. We can obviously make these longer. Now we should hide the password when we type. So let's do secure text entry for the password text input. Now let's create a segue from our button to our view controller. So to create a show segue, just hold control, and so hold control and just drag it over here. Now it should be highlighted in that blue color. Now click on show. Okay. And one more thing, let's change the background to a different color, possibly system gray 3 or system gray 4. And now let's go over here and let's actually go over to a landing screen and choose the presentation option. So there's a presentation option in the attributes, and it should be fixed, or full screen. There, so presentation, full screen. Now let's run our app and see. One more thing, I'll change it to an iPhone 13 Pro. And let me go back to the main. Okay. Now let me run the app again. And so the reason we changed this to full view is because before it would just be like a card where you can swipe down and see the background, go back by swiping down to our login screen. But we want the user to feel like they entered the app. So this creates a more realistic version. Okay. So when we first open the app, we land here. So there's multiple ways to fix it. One way to fix it is by moving the objects from here to there. Another way is by setting this as the initial view controller, so this wouldn't be the initial view controller. So if we go here, click on this view controller, and go over here, it's the initial view controller. But if we go over here, it's not. So if this is the initial view controller, when we first run the app, this should be the first thing that shows up. Great, and we added a segue, so when we click this, that pops up. Great. One thing we noticed is that we can make the button longer, so let's do that. Nice. Now let's add a navigation controller. So go plus icon and navigation controller. So here we have added the navigation controller, and we can actually remove the root controller. So this should lead us like this. And now let's add a title. So let's remove this title. So let's go over here, remove the title. Okay, or it's fine. We can actually keep the title, but let's make sure that this title is a large title is set to always. So when you click, it should be large title. So let's find where that is. So right here, let's do prefers large titles. Now let's click on the navigation item here in our landing page. This navigation item. Let's change large titles to always. Now let's close this sidebar and let's open our assistant. And we can close this sidebar too for now. And we can, okay. So let's open our view controller. So let's go here and then view controller. And now let's add the prepare for method function. Now let's do at IB outlet. So what I did was I went over to the editor and then I clicked on this, went over to the editor, and then I clicked embed in a navigational controller. So now, since we embedded our navigation controller in here, let's open our assistant. And let's create an outlet. So hold control and oops, okay, let's close it out. Come here and then open our assistant. Hold control and drag. Let's hold this. And then we need to access. Okay. Let's try again. So now let's add an outlet for our text label, text input, and let's also add a Segue destination. So we're basically changing the title of our destination to of the text labels. Now let's run our app. Sorry, I had to cut some of the video due to receiving an error, but now it's fixed. So what I did was essentially I created a segue from each of these buttons to our landing page. And now if I open the assistant, now in the segue, we can, so I created as a function to prepare. So for that segue, when these buttons are clicked, there is a guard to sender, so it makes sure that the sender is nothing but it's not null essentially. And then if it's from the forgot password button, then it sets the title over here to be forgot password, and if it's from forgot username respectively, sets the title to that respectively. And if it's from the login, then it sets it to username.text. Let's run our app and see how it works. And another thing, I created outlets for these buttons. So if I click here, it creates a title, forgot username. If I click here, forgot password. And if I say username, Don123, click login, it also puts that as a title. That's it for this video, and see you in our next lesson.